3 sinister parenting tales, revealed accounts of cursed secrets and the unexplained dangers within. Sarah's heart raced as she clutched the glowing screen. The message was clear, chilling. Someone had been tracking her son Noah's after-school routine. "Watch out for the playground," it said cryptically. The pristine sidewalks of Maplewood, New Jersey, suddenly felt like they were closing in, suffocating her in an embrace of dread. She glanced toward the window, her heartbeat like a war drum, praying that the sun would stay just a little longer before surrendering to the night that it was supposed to be the perfect life. A tidy little house, a yard with freshly clipped grass, and neighbors sharing polite smiles. But as dusk fell, shadows grew longer, twisting shapes into the familiar streets. Each evening became a sinister game of trust and betrayal. The unease wrapped around her ankles, dragging her deeper into paranoia. Sarah felt trapped, exhausted by trying to keep her children safe, yet now haunted by the reality that somewhere in this seemingly perfect neighborhood, unseen eyes were tracking their every move. The whispers had started at school. Local kids muttered stories about her house, claiming it was cursed. At first, she brushed it off as juvenile silliness, but the strange events piled up. A neighbor's golden retriever vanished, and Sarah caught a boy casting nervous glances at her front door. "It's the house," he said, eyes wide. "It eats people." She laughed it off nervously around other parents, but deep down, the sensation of being watched gnawed at her. Late-night shifts at the diner, combined with the burden of solo parenting, left her vulnerable. But when she sought help from the police, their dismissive smiles only deepened her fears. "Just a case of overactive imaginations," they had shrugged. Yet, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that something was lurking in the background, an unseen malice that had woven its way into her life. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. The days dragged on, anxiety tightening like a noose. A sifting wind brought whispers through her yard, chilling her to the bone. Searching for answers, she pored over local history, uncovering old newspaper clippings that spoke of families who vanished without a trace. The deep-rooted urban legends of Maplewood, which had always been trivial bedtime stories for her children, suddenly became sinister tales of horror. One night, a chilling confrontation thrust her into chaos. She caught a glimpse of a figure, shrouded in shadow, lurking near the swing set. Panic surged through her veins as she raced back indoors, heart pounding, the faint echo of a child's laughter trailing in the darkness. Just as she locked the door, her phone buzzed again. You can't protect them forever. With her children asleep, Sarah felt more alone than ever. The once-loved streets now seemed to taunt her, twisted with eerie possibilities. Could she uncover the truth about her house and the dangers lurking in Maplewood before it was too late? Time was slipping away, and so was her grasp on safety. As night fell and an unsettling scream pierced the silence, she knew this was only the beginning. The sound of Noah's laughter echoed through the house, a stark contrast to the oppressive silence that enveloped Sarah like a shroud. It was early morning, and sunlight crept through the kitchen window, trying to chase away the shadows of the night. But as she moved mechanically through her routine, pouring cereal and brewing coffee, the memory of that scream haunted her, settling into every crevice of her mind. "Mom, can I play outside?" Noah's voice pulled her from her thoughts, bright and innocent, yet now laced with dread. The playground was busy today, teeming with kids, but instead of comfort, it filled her with alarm. "Noah, stay close to the house, okay?" She forced a smile, though her stomach twisted. He nodded enthusiastically, oblivious to her worry, rushing outside with a casual bounce in his step. As he ran out, another chill swept through the house, sending prickles down her spine. Was it just paranoia, or was there something sinister lurking at the edge of her vision? She squinted outside, convinced she would see that shadow again, but there was nothing, just laughter and playful shouts. Then, the phone buzzed again, the caller ID displaying an unknown number. Her heart pounded as she answered. Hello? No response. Just static. An icy wave rolled over her. Hello? She repeated, but the line went dead. She hung up, gripping the countertop, trying to steady her breath. As the day dragged on, Sarah's unease grew. Every time she peered out the window, her gaze was drawn to the playground, her heart racing when she couldn't spot Noah among the other children. It was as if a deep instinct warned her of danger just out of sight. Just before noon, when she finally saw Noah climbing onto the jungle gym, relief flooded her, but it was short-lived as curiosity gripped her. She grabbed her jacket and stepped outside. The air felt heavy, the vibrant colors of the world muted under a blanket of tension. It was as if the earth itself held its breath. As she approached the playground, a little girl stumbled past her, tears streaming down her cheeks. They said to play where the swings are. Her voice was frail, trembling with fear. Sarah felt a wave of nausea. What are you talking about? They said it's a trap, the girl stammered, glancing over her shoulder. A bad place to be, who said? Sarah pressed, desperation rising. The whisperers. The girl darted away, disappearing into a group of children, and Sarah was left standing there, staring into the playground that now felt like a pit of horrors. Noah, blissfully unaware, turned to wave at her, and Sarah's breath hitched. Noah! Come here, please. He slumped down from the jungle gym, confusion knitting his brows. She stepped closer, forcing a calm facade, pulling him into an embrace. Let us head back inside, all right? But as she turned, her intuition screamed at her. A figure loomed at the edge of the park, half hidden in the trees. A set of eyes glinted hungrily in the sunlight. She stumbled back, heart pounding, fear electrifying her limbs. The figure, was it truly human? Noah, stay close. She barked. Panic clawed at her throat. Then, just when she thought her heart couldn't race any faster, she felt a cold whisper skimming her ear, sending shivers down her spine. You can't protect him from the shadows that creep. With a fierce resolve, Sarah clutched Noah's hand tighter. Run! As they bolted back toward home, the figure melted deeper into the woods, but that voice lingered, burrowing itself into her mind. What if the stories were true? What if her home was the epicenter of a surprising evil? In the safety of her house, she grasped the doorframe, breathing heavily. The truth was out there, lurking, and she was running out of time. What awaited her in the shadows? Could she fight against the sinister forces at play before they snatched him away? As she locked the door, her phone buzzed again. Her hands trembled as she accepted the call. The unknown number blinked ominously on the screen. Heart hammering, she brought the phone to her ear. Hello? The word left her lips barely above a whisper. Silence. Just that chilling static again. No comfort came from the familiar sounds of her home now. Instead, they twisted into unsettling echoes, making her feel trapped in a cage of her own creation. Then, before she could hang up, she heard a voice, a raspy, silken whisper that sent her reeling. Shadows come for what is lost. The line went dead, leaving her breathless. It felt as though the walls were closing in, pressing against her sanity. She threw the phone onto the dining table, her mind racing back to the figure lurking in the park. Was it watching them now? Was it waiting for the right moment to strike? Mom? Noah's voice pulled her from her spiral. He stood just behind her, innocence written all over his small face, eyes wide with curiosity. She scooped him up before he had a chance to ask again. We need to stay inside, she said firmly, her voice trying to sound steadier than she felt. She locked the door again, the click echoing ominously as she barred their escape. Moments passed in tense silence, and then Noah asked, "Can I watch cartoons?" She nodded, forcing her lips into a semblance of a smile. Anything for a distraction. If he got enthralled in his show, maybe she could collect herself. As the first cartoon exploded into color on the screen, Sarah curled up beside Noah, her eyes darting to the window every few moments, waiting. The world outside felt alive and vibrant, yet it was a lie. She tried to focus on the warmth of her son, the rhythm of his breathing, but her mind clawed back to the shadows, the figure. Suddenly, the room plunged into a thick silence. The TV flickered and then shut off, the lights dimmed as if the power had gone out. Panic surged through her chest. "No," Sarah whispered, dread pooling in the pit of her stomach. "Mom?" Noah's voice quivered. "Stay right here," she instructed, trying to keep her voice calm. She fought against the urge to flee, instead slowly rising to check the fuse box. Quick and deliberate, she moved closer to the basement door. Each step echoed, surrounding her with a dreadful anticipation. What if that whisper was true? What if the shadows were inside her home? She opened the basement door, creaking and yawning as if it too was alive. The darker air seeped through, swirling past her. She hesitated, her hand hovering above the light switch, wondering how far the darkness reached. It felt colder, hungrier down there, and a flicker of doubt about whether to descend gripped her. "Mom!" Noah's voice pierced the stagnant air from the living room. A sharp note of urgency cut through her fear. But fear twisted in her chest, insisting she check first. "Hold on, Noah. I'm coming." With one hard gulp, she flipped the switch. The light from a single bulb flickered on, illuminating the staircase, but shadows clung stubbornly to the corners. Summoning courage, she stepped into the basement, each footfall sending echoes back upward. It was different down here. Different and wrong. She reached the bottom and scanned the room, heart pounding. Then she heard it soft and low, like a child's giggle echoing from a dark corner. "Sarah." It was that same hiss, weaving through the silence like smoke, chilling her to the bone. "You're too late," she whipped around, legs trembling as terror washed over her. Above her son's laughter from the living room echoed again, innocent and bright against this new darkness that threatened to pull her in. "Noah." As she turned to leap back up the stairs, something gripped her ankle. Cold fingers wound tightly. The last thought that flared in her mind was a desperate resolve to escape before the shadows swallowed them whole. She screamed, but would anyone hear? What was creeping from the depths, and what horrors awaited them now? The grip on her ankle tightened, icy and relentless. Sarah struggled against it, the coldness creeping into her very marrow. Her heart thundered in her chest as sheer panic set in. "Noah!" She screamed again, desperation clawing at her throat. The shadows writhed, twisting in the corners of her vision. She tried to pull away, her breath coming in ragged gasps. "Let me go!" she shouted, determination igniting in her eyes. But the unseen force only yanked harder, pulling her slowly toward the narrow, dark abyss of the basement. "Noah!" she cried, her voice laced with sheer terror. She could feel the pull of the darkness trying to engulf her, the very air thickening with dread. But there was something deeper, a promise of despair that floated just below the surface, whispering to her. Suddenly, the grasp on her ankle released with a suddenness that sent her tumbling backward onto the cold concrete floor. Trembling, she crawled back toward the stairs, pushing herself up, fingers slipping against the smooth surface. She could hear Noah's innocent giggles above, yet they felt so far away, floating farther with each second she spent in this wretched place. "Mom!" Noah's voice echoed like music, drawing her back to the surface of her panic. "Are you okay?" His innocence struck her like a weapon, slicing through the darkness. "Stay there!" she shouted, casting a frantic glance over her shoulder. Shadows seemed to shift, swirling as if they were alive. But even worse was what she thought she saw. In the dim light, a figure tall and featureless loomed just beyond the edge of her vision. It watched her. With renewed adrenaline, she rushed up the stairs, heart hammering against her ribs. Each step felt like climbing a mountain, but she couldn't stop now. Her pulse raced, fear shoving her forward. She slammed the door shut and locked it with shaking hands, her breath hitching. "Mom?" Noah's voice drew nearer, his small feet pattering against the wooden floor. "I'm here, sweetheart." She gasped. The basement felt like a distant nightmare now, yet the chills still lingered around her. She yared Noah back to the living room, forcing herself to breathe calmly and wipe away the terror clouding her vision. Fake smiles rolled out as the cartoon returned to life, colors bouncing back into the room. But every clang and tinkle of the opening credits rang like an alarm in her ears. The screen glowed cheerfully, yet the world outside felt different, hushed, unnatural. The neighborhood had gone awfully still. Then the phone rang again, slicing through the fragile calmness. With a sobering chill, Sarah picked it up, unsure if she should. She held it tight, staring at the screen. "Unknown number. Do not answer it," screamed a voice inside her, but her hand betrayed her, swiping the green button. "Hello?" She spoke, her voice trembling. "Sarah," the raspy voice was unmistakable. "You must listen. The shadows, they're closer than you think." "Shut up," she yelled, slamming the phone down, the click reverberating in her skull. Noah looked up at her, eyes wide, lips trembling. "Who was that?" Just a prank," she lied. "Nothing to worry about. Let us go get some snacks instead." But as she turned her back, that familiar sensation of being watched wormed back into her mind. A half-formed thought slithered through, the truth of that chilling whisper still hanging in the back of her head. Deep down, she knew they weren't safe. "Mom?" Noah piped up again. "Look." She turned to see him pointing, eyes fixed on the window. And as she followed his gaze, a figure shrouded in black stood at the edge of their yard, motionless and ominous. There were no features to discern, just shadows blending into the ground, not unlike the ones she had felt pulling at her. Fear consumed her. The whispers returned, this time insistent, a chorus that crescendoed in her mind. Shadows come for what is lost. As she turned back to face Noah, a sudden realization struck her hard. Maybe this time, it was too late to escape. A heavy silence loomed as the phone vibrated on the table, a new message flashing on the screen. "Be careful what you guard." What did it mean? And who or what else was watching? Sarah's heart raced as the figure outside loomed near. The sunlight filtering through the window seemed to fade, swallowed by an encroaching gloom. She felt cold sweat trickle down her back. "Noah, I need you to stay close," she said, her voice strained. Noah, oblivious to the rising tide of terror surrounding them, turned back to the screen, but his wide eyes still sparkled with fear. "But Mom, I want to go outside." A rush of warmth surged through her, a mixture of love and dread. She couldn't let him go out there. "Just stay here for a second." Sprinting to the window, Sarah strained to see the figure clearly, but it was like staring into a void. It seemed to pulse with shadows, shifting in ways that defied reality. "What are you?" she whispered, but the figure remained silent and still. "Mom?" Noah's voice trembled, pulling her from the haze of frozen fear. "What's wrong?" "Nothing, sweetheart. Just some weird neighbor," she lied, though a heavy pit formed in her stomach. She could sense that the darkness was not just outside. Her phone vibrated again. She glanced at the screen. Another message. The words prickled along her skin, "They'll take what's not theirs." Panic fled to her throat, choking her. "Mom!" Noah's plea shattered her ruminating chaos. He was pointing again. The figure was gone, but it didn't matter. Another silhouette stood now near the tree line, impossibly tall and vague, swaying as if beckoning. The shadows didn't dissipate, they thickened. "Come on, let us go to the kitchen," she urged, keeping her voice calm despite the quaking inside her. She led Noah away from the window, but just as they moved, an icy gust swept through the room, rattling the door. "I'm scared, Mom." Noah clung to her, his small frame trembling. He wasn't just frightened, he was sensing it too. "I know, baby. I promise, I'll keep you safe." But how could she guarantee that when she felt the very air crackling with a sinister charge? As they reached the kitchen, the fridge hummed loudly, contrasting the pervasive silence. She fumbled for the light, illuminating the space, but the warmth felt superficial. The shadows darted around, curling into corners, as if expectant. Suddenly, she heard the unmistakable sound of laughter. It was twisted and wrong, echoing like a taunt. "Mom, is that Noah?" Her breath hitched. "No, Noah, stay close." The laughter stopped, replaced by whispers that crawled into her mind, demanding her attention, seeping into her thoughts. She grabbed a knife from the counter, holding it out defensively, though part of her knew it would be useless. But any semblance of control was slipping away, her surroundings growing more malevolent by the second. "Noah?" she whispered, glancing down to find her son fixated on the window again. "Noah." But he was already moving, his small feet padding softly toward the door. "No." She lunged, grabbing his arm just as he reached for the knob. "We can't go out." "No, Mom. I have to go see." The door trembled under an unseen force, a low growl emanating from the other side. "Open it," a voice slithered through the cracks. "I'm waiting." Terror clutched at Sarah's chest. "Don't listen. Close your eyes, Noah." There was a moment of resistance as he turned to her, panic painting his features. But her command echoed in his mind, urgent and desperate. "You need to trust me." The growling intensified, almost hungry, and the shadows crawled across the floor, inching closer. "Noah." The door shook violently now, resonating through her bones. She felt the weight of the shadows bearing down. With a swift gasp, she pulled Noah back, attempting to shield him with her body. Suddenly, the whispers rose, a chorus of chaos that swirled around them, and the growl morphed into one dreadful word. Open. Both of them froze as the shadows pooled under the door, thickening like a living creature. Time was running out, and all that filled her mind was a singular, desperate thought: she had to protect him. As the door splintered, and a fierce chill swept through the kitchen, another message flickered to life on her phone. "Do you know what your child truly desires?" The ground beneath them trembled, her heart racing with the realization that the worst was yet to come. What did that message mean? Just outside that door, did something truly want to claim Noah? "Mom, I'm scared," he whimpered, holding on to her tighter. An overwhelming dread filled Sarah as the shadows surged forward, ready to pull them into darkness. And all she could hear was the relentless whisper echoing in her mind, "Open." The door shuddered, wood splintering on impact. Sarah's grip on Noah tightened, her pulse a frantic drumbeat against her temples. "Noah, listen to me." She breathed sharply between shallow gasps. "If we don't get out of here now," a chilling wind swept through the kitchen, extinguishing the overhead light. Darkness enveloped them, thick and suffocating. Sarah's heart sank, she was losing the little control she had left. The whispers intensified, a cacophony that clawed at her sanity. Names flowed like icy water, Noah, 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 layering dread upon dread with every repeating syllable. "Mom." His little voice was nearly swallowed by the ghastly soundscape. "I can't see. What's happening?" "Shh." She hissed, scanning the darkness, feeling cut off from the world beyond the shadows. Tears pooled in her eyes, but she blinked them away, fighting the growing panic. "It's okay, I'm right here. We'll be okay." Suddenly, the whispers formed a heartbeat, rhythmic and pulsating, as if the shadows themselves were alive and breathing. The kitchen began to vibrate, dishes rattling, lights flickering erratically. It was becoming harder to stand still as the shadows writhed toward them, eager tendrils searching for flesh. An echo of laughter pulsated through the darkness, sick and twisted, rolling in waves that crashed against Sarah's chest. "Noah, come play." It was a voice she recognized, but only vaguely, a ghost from a past she wished to forget. "Noah!" she shouted, her voice sharp. "We have to move. Mom! I want to see them. I want to go." He struggled, trying to pull away. The tug of innocence was powerful, a painful reminder that he didn't understand the danger. "Please, Noah. Trust me, you don't want to go out there." Desperation flooded her words, turning them to ash. She glanced toward the door, where shadows churned, but the sound was unmistakable, a soft scratching, clawing at their chance of escape. Goosebumps erupted on her skin, her phone buzzed again, its screen flickering dimly in the dark. She hesitated, fear twisting inside her. A third message materialized: "You fed them well." Feeding them? What could that possibly mean? Panic clawed at her throat, and she felt the walls trapping them, closing in. Just as she moved to protect Noah further behind her, cold wisps brushed against her legs, alive and coiling like snakes, seeking warmth. "Sarah, open," the whispers hissed. "Let him come. Go away," she shouted, feebly brandishing the knife, its blade glinting dully like a shriveled flicker of hope. But the shadows surged, sleek and insidious, shifting around the blade as if unfazed. With her back to the wall now, she could feel the shadows creeping into her mind, a wrapping fog. She needed to think. But her lungs ached with the weight of despair, threatening to steal her breath. "Noah!" His small hands gripped her tighter as a frantic scream sliced through the air. She turned to see him, staring wide-eyed at the door, transfixed as if caught under a spell. "Noah, come here." Her command sliced through the darkness. But his gaze remained glued to something beyond, a dawning recognition blooming in his eyes. "Mom, there's someone there. I can see them." Sarah's pulse quickened as she whipped around. Emerging from the gloom stood a figure tall, with elongated limbs. Shadows danced around it, giving the guise of movement, flickering in and out of reality. "Noah, look at me," she cried, pulling him fiercely back to focus. "Look at me." But it was too late. The shadowed form surged forward, a chilling, skeletal grin spreading across its face. "He desires what you keep." The voice was melodic yet grotesque, making a mockery of salvation. In one deft motion, the thing reached toward them, elongating fingers stretching, grasping for Noah. "No!" A desperate scream erupted from Sarah as everything shattered around them. Her entire being screamed. She felt the knife slip from her fingers as the cold spread through her own limbs, anchoring her to her place, a fragile barrier against the advancing darkness. "Noah!" With an eruption of primal instinct, she lunged forward, but at that moment, she felt the true weight of the shadows. They engulfed her, dragging her into the void of nightmarish horror, where her own fears began to twist and claw. Then, silence. But only for a second. With a surge of strength, Sarah's voice broke through the void. "Noah!" she cried, aware that she had crossed into a realm of unfathomable darkness where perhaps something more sinister awaited. What if the attack was only a prelude to a much darker game? The whispers resumed, gloating like a pack of wolves, and though she felt the darkness enveloping her, she knew she had to fight, not just for herself, but for Noah. What had she done? And what would she do next to protect him? The darkness pulsed around Sarah like a living thing, suffocating her senses. She could barely breathe, the air thick and stale, filled with the scent of mold and something sweetly rotten. Desperation surged within her. She had to find Noah. The echoes of his voice grazed her eardrums as they bounced off the walls, distant yet vividly real. "Mom, help me. Noah!" she called out, her voice nearly swallowed by the thickening shadows. Panic turned in her gut. With shaky hands, she searched the inky blackness around her, her heart hammering against her ribs. She felt along the walls, tentatively stepping forward, trying to quell the whispers that wrapped around her soul, gnawing at her sanity. "Noah!" Where are you? Mom, I'm scared. The cries grew softer, more despairing. She could discern the tension in his voice. It was breaking. Stay where you are. I'm coming. The lights flickered back to life for a fleeting moment, casting a dim glow that revealed an empty kitchen. Glass shards glinted on the floor like teeth. Sarah stumbled, her feet slipping on the remnants of shattered dishes. She took a deep breath to steady herself. There was no time for mistakes. Each passing moment felt like a dagger in her back, twisting and slicing at her resolve. She heard a rustle, low and sinister. The shadows coiled tighter, pushing against her skin as she scanned the room. Could they be reaching for her? They were alive, hungry for something, someone. Noah. She called again, her voice strained, barely a whisper now. A glimmer of hope sparked inside her as she moved toward the doorway leading to the living room, the last sentient area where she might find safety or the unknown. Each step felt like a test, the floor creaked ominously beneath her feet. She could see the door now, slightly ajar, an invitation shrouded in trepidation. But what lay beyond? As she approached, shadows clawed at her ankles, pulling her, urging her backward. She felt the throb of her heartbeat in her throat, but she pushed harder against the dark tendrils. I will not let go, she murmured, a mantra against despair. Suddenly, the whispering grew louder, drowning out her thoughts. Sarah, they crooned, teasing her name, wrapping it in a sinister melody that sent shivers down her spine. Then came laughter, sharp and terrifying, echoing through the room. Was it Noah's laughter? The shadows stretched, pooling, swirling with intention. She spotted movement in the corner of her eye. Turning, she caught a glimpse of Noah's small form, crumpled and cowering beneath the dining table, encased in darkness. Relief flooded her, but it came with a pang of dread when she noticed that he wasn't alone. A figure loomed above him, draped in shadows, the same elongated silhouette from before. Its face was an unsettling mixture of agony and ecstasy, twisting in the light like a mirage. Noah! Sarah screamed, charging forward despite the grip of the shadows that tried to drag her back. The thing turned. Eyes like voids met her gaze, empty, hungry. He is ours, it hissed. Noah, get out from there. She urged desperately, her voice piercing through the haze. The boy froze, trembling, as if caught in a trance. Come play, it beckoned softly, the words wrapping around him like silk. No. Sarah's heart raced. She had to break the spell. Noah, come to me. You have to trust me. In that moment, the shadows coiled around her arms, a frigid grip of despair. Noah blinked, his eyes wide, still caught in the beast's snare. Sarah felt a sharp pain in her chest. The darkness was demanding a sacrifice. Noah. With a surge of courage, she broke through the haze, lunging forward and grabbing Noah's arm. The moment their skin touched, a surge of warmth pulsed through her body, cutting through the shadowy numbness that he turned to her, fear etched in his little face. Mom, I can't leave him, no. You have to trust me. We're stronger. And just as those words left her lips, the darkness began to recede, but not without a sinister warning. Sarah, you can't preserve him, it whispered, voices intertwining, growing louder, drowning every bit of defiance in her heart. With Noah pulling desperately at her, she felt a cold hand brush past her, its fingernails as sharp as knives. Ice surged through her veins, panic screamed through her mind. Run! She shouted, her voice reverberating like a jackhammer. Together, they stumbled out from under the table, racing toward the light at the far end of the room. But just as they neared safety, the kitchen door slammed shut, locking them in, sealing their fate. They paused, breathless, realization dawning. The whispers grew, echoing around them. The game has only just begun. What other secrets waited in the suffocating dark? Sarah's heart raced. She was starting to understand, this was not just a fight for survival, it was a twisted game of wills. And she was about to realize how deep the darkness ran. The air thickened, suffused with an uncontrollable dread. Sarah gripped Noah's hand tightly, the warmth of their touch a fragile tether in a world that demanded everything from them. The familiar shuddering of shadows felt alive, surging around their ankles, whispering promises of terror. "What do we do, Mom?" Noah's voice trembled, small and shaky, as if he could feel the darkness breathing behind him, urging him back into its embrace. "Just trust me," she whispered, trying to stitch bravery into her words, although fear clawed at her insides. The door loomed behind them, a solid barrier that now felt like a tomb. The once faint echoes of laughter transformed into shrill taunts, ringing in her ears. "You can't escape, Sarah. You cannot run from us." The voices rang in a chorus, filling her chest with icy fingers of despair. "Noah, listen." She knelt, looking deeply into his frightened eyes. "We need to find another way out. I promise you, we can do this together. Remember that game we used to play hide and seek? Let us play now. We have to be quick. We'll just find the nearest way out, okay?" Noah nodded, even as the shadowy mass danced around them. But the grip of the entity upon their spirits tightened, squeezing away reason. "The basement," Sarah muttered, her heart racing with the sudden thought. It was a dark, forbidden space beneath their home. She had always felt something off about it, a place where the shadows lingered like stoic sentinels. There might be a way through the back exit there. But what if it's worse? Noah's eyes widened. She could offer no reassurances. "We don't have time for that. We're running out of choices." With determination boiling inside her, she turned toward the hallway leading to the basement door. With each step forward, the shadows lunged, as if trying to keep them from moving. Distant echoes morphed into roars of laughter and cries, disjointed and overlapping, gnawing at the edges of her sanity. "Noah, go!" she screamed, frustration bursting forth as she shoved against the wall of darkness. As they edged closer to the basement door, an agonizing shriek pierced the air. It wasn't Noah, it was a sound of pure anguish, twisting through the very fabric of reality. Sarah hesitated, instinctively shielding Noah from the abomination she couldn't yet see. "We can't stop, we have to run," she hissed, her body urging Noah to keep moving, even as every fiber of her being screamed to turn back. The shadows hesitated, almost hissing at them, as though they understood the weight of her resolve, but refused to yield. Finally reaching the door, the atmosphere shifted. All at once, both sickening fear and undeniable curiosity pulled at Sarah. The door cracked open with a mournful creak, revealing an abyss that swallowed any remaining light. It was hard to believe that just beyond lay the solace she desperately sought. "Noah, we're going in. Together." He edged closer, his tiny frame wavering before the darkness. "But Mom, trust me." They stepped into the void, the blackness engulfing them in an instant. The air in the basement smelled of damp earth and despair. Goosebumps surged along her arms as the door slammed shut behind them. Now they were truly trapped, an echo of thudding hearts ricocheting off the walls, then came a low whisper, curling around them like smoke. "Welcome home," Sarah. Her mind spun, questions bloomed like weeds in her brain. What was this place? What was waiting for them in this oppressive dark? And why did it feel all too familiar? No. The fear pulsed in her chest again, a wild animal clawing for freedom. "We have to find the exit. We can't stay here." But as she turned to face her son, the reality hit her. Noah had gone quiet. Anxiety flooded her senses as she scanned the darkness. She opened her mouth to call out, but the shadows swallowed her voice whole. "Noah?" Desperation seeped into her tone. "Where are you?" And then, a cold hand gripped her shoulder, long, bony fingers trailing down her back, lighting her skin on fire. "What little plays have you prepared, Sarah?" The voice oozed malice, chilling her heart to its core. She whipped around, but nothing was there. The shadows receded slightly, then surged forward, revealing a single, glowing eye staring right back at her. Then she heard a laugh. Not just any laugh, but a laughter that told tales of children lost, of souls cherished, all replaced by shadows. And for the first time, Sarah had no idea if she could protect Noah. The basement trembled, and a chorus of whispers erupted around her. Will you choose darkness, or will you fight? What could she offer to escape this nightmare? The walls of the basement warped and closed in, and she felt a chilling truth uncoil within her. The real game was just beginning, and the rules were never hers to dictate. What would she have to sacrifice to save Noah? The darkness closed in like an oppressive fog, smothering every hint of hope. Sarah's breath quickened, catching in her throat as she searched the abyss for any sign of her son. Noah. Her voice echoed into the void, but the shadows seemed to mock her, playing her desperation in fractal tones that twisted and turned until they faded like wisps of smoke. With each passing moment, the tangible sense of fear morphed into something deeper and more malevolent. The cold, bony fingers that had gripped her shoulder lingered in her mind, igniting a memory that clawed at the edges of her sanity. She had encountered similar darkness once before, in a dream that had felt all too real, filled with a merciless laughter that crashed like waves against her consciousness. Just as panic began to overtake her, a flicker of movement caught her eye. Noah? She whispered, her voice barely a breath. Shadows flickered in tandem as she turned, revealing a small figure curled against the wall. Relief surged through her, but it quickly warped into dread as she recognized the haunted look in Noah's eyes. Mom, he choked out, his voice barely a whisper above the sinister whispers that wrapped around them. He reached out, and she felt a surge of maternal instinct, grounding her in the moment. Stay close to me, she instructed, trying to keep her voice steady. But the power of the shadows surged again, rising like a tide, and they were forced backwards. They scrambled, feet slipping against the damp floor as the atmosphere shifted around them. A rumble, deep and unsettling, reverberated through the floor. The walls began to pulse, a heartbeat of living darkness that throbbed in time with their own racing hearts. We have to find a way out, Sarah urged. There has to be an exit. Around them, the whispers grew louder, eyes glinting in the smothering dark. What are you hiding, Sarah? One voice hissed, every syllable wrapped in malice. Nothing. She shot back defiantly, although the shadows crawled over her mind, scouring her buried secrets. We just want to leave. Children play here, the voice sang, and it warped, taking on a sinister glee that sliced through the terror surrounding them. But they can't leave Noah, don't listen. She grabbed her son's hand tighter, the grip of their fingers a small refuge against the terror surrounding them. But it was too late. The shadows had found their way into his gaze, curling tendrils of despair around his heart. He looked at her with uncertainty, an echo of the child he once was slipping away. Mom, what does it mean? What are they saying? His voice broke, trembling under the weight of invisible lies. Before she could answer, the darkness surged forward, a wave of cold that knocked them both off their feet. They landed hard against the ground, the taste of iron spilling onto Sarah's tongue as the shadows coiled closer. One more laugh, chilling, primal, and laced with cruelty, filled the air and settled deep in her bones. Noah! She shouted again, but as she turned toward him, a new terror gripped her heart. The boy who had been by her side was now an apparition, slowly fading beneath the weight of the darkness. His outlines blurred, his features twisting into something unrecognizable and grotesque. Help me. His tiny voice was a whisper, like a dying breath, swallowed by a cacophony of sinister laughter. No, Sarah gasped, panic clawing at her throat as the shadows drew him away. She lunged forward in desperation, but the darkness tightened around her, a cruel embrace that threatened to engulf her whole. Will you give yourself to us? The whispers crooned, wrapping around her like chains, pulling her deeper into despair. Every instinct screamed for her to fight, to claw her way back into the light. Let him go. She cried, rage igniting within her, a flicker of brave defiance amid crushing despair. The air thickened as the entity before her shifted, blue light glimmering from its depths, revealing not just a figure but an entire history of anguish. A mother's sacrifice, that's the game, Sarah. What will you do for him? The shadows shifted like storm clouds above, their anticipation crackling with energy. In an instant, Sarah's world narrowed, the only thing that mattered was saving Noah. Whatever it takes, she said, heart pounding, determination imbued with a wild terror. But the true price lurked just beyond her comprehension. What awaited her on the other side of that choice? The ground beneath Sarah's feet began to tremble, a violent thrumming that matched her heart's frantic rhythm. The shadows swirled around her, thick and suffocating, whispering promises of despair and temptation. Noah's frail voice sliced through the cacophony, begging for her to save him. She could feel him slipping away, his essence becoming a mere ghost of what he had been. Noah! She cried, surge of desperation igniting within her. The shadows recoiled, their grip slackening, just for a moment. Just hold on, baby. I'm coming. But the darkness, thick and hungry, curled around her in a sinister embrace, tugging her deeper into its insatiable maw. You must part with something, Sarah, it hissed, the multitude of voices rising into a single chilling sound. What will you give to reclaim your son? Every instinct screamed to fight, but her hands trembled with doubt. What price would she have to pay? Part of her, the primal instinct for survival, told her to turn away, to view the shadows as foes to outsmart. But another part, a darker whisper, beckoned, a sacrifice will save him. A sacrifice will set you free. No! She bellowed defiantly. I will not give you anything. Let him go. Her voice echoed through the suffocating space, but the shadows only laughed. Noah! The agony in her chest intensified, clawing at her insides, a creeping fear that felt all too familiar. She could feel him slipping, distant, as if he were trapped in another realm of darkness, and she was losing hope. In a sudden rush of clarity, she lunged forward, pushing against the dark filaments that clung around her ankles, visualizing Noah, his innocent face clear in her mind. Perhaps love could be the weapon. Noah! Fight it! You are stronger than this. At her words, the shadows momentarily quivered. Time folded in on itself. She could see Noah, flickering like a candle caught in the turbulent winds. He was there, his little hands reached for her, eyes wide with fear. Mommy! I need you. I'm here. She roared, fueled by a fierce maternal instinct. She pounded her fists against the darkness, screaming, feeling the vibrations pulse through her body. Family, love, courage, they flowed through her in torrents. Suddenly, reality twisted. The shadows thickened, growing more sentient, breeding more confusion and despair. What's holding you back, Sarah? A voice crooned softly. Let the darkness claim you both. You will be free. She narrowed her eyes. No. I would rather die than let you take him. With that declaration, the shadows recoiled, shuddering as if wounded by her defiance. The entity coalesced, forming the grim silhouette of a figure tall and menacing. The flickering light revealed its features, jagged and contorted, an entity born from depths of her own fears. Then sacrifice yourself, dear Sarah, it hissed, a chilling promise radiating through the air. Trade your freedom for his. It's a fair exchange. No. Noah! She shouted, reaching for him, but shadows coiled tighter, tightening their grip. No! He called out, a ghostly echo weaving through the choking darkness. A new resolve coursed through her. You think you can take my essence? I refuse to be a victim. In one swift motion filled with fierce determination, Sarah brought her hands together in a deliberate strike, pushing against the shadows. The darkness shrieked, recoiling as she conjured memories of laughter and warmth. The bond between her and Noah surged, glowing like a beacon against the dark. Together. She screamed into the void, feeling deep in her bones that their love was a force against the infernal evil that sought to tear them apart. And then, a brilliant burst light erupted from between her palms, illuminating the murkiness. The shadows snapped and hissed, recoiling as the warmth poured into the room like sunlight after a stormy night. "No band of shadows can devour what we have," she declared, wielding that light like a sword. "Noah, grab my hand." Air whooshed around them as Noah ran toward her. The shadows thrashed in rage, threatening to envelop them again. "Mom!" he called, fear shadowing his bright eyes, but determination mandating his step. They grasped each other's hands, and together they stood. "Let us go," Sarah shouted. The darkness shrieked again, furious and desperate, as golden light exploded around them, fracturing their sinister prison. The basement reverberated, cracking like glass, and Sarah felt the air shift, becoming lighter, lifting the heaviness that had held her captive. "We can break free." With one final pushing motion, Sarah focused all her willpower, and the shadows shattered into myriad crystalline shapes before disintegrating into nothingness. The dim light flooded the basement, washing away the remnants of darkness and revealing the way forward. Hope surged through them as they surged toward the doorway, racing to escape the black tendrils that writhed uselessly behind. But the shadows dissolved in their wake, fading like a nightmare at dawn. "Noah!" She swept him into her arms, cradling him tightly. "We did it." His tiny arms wrapped around her, warmth surging between them like life. "Did we win, Mommy?" Breathless and radiant with relief, she kissed his brow. "We're free now. Nothing can separate us." As they stepped out of the basement, into the sunlight, Sarah glanced back, heart pounding as if the darkness still roiled just beneath the surface. But it was just a memory now. "Never again," she whispered. Noah giggled, tugging at her hand, oblivious to the horrors they had just faced. "Can we get ice cream?" he chirped. "Yes, sweet boy," she smiled, taking his little hand in hers. "Ice cream sounds perfect." The sun kissed their faces as they walked forward, shadows retreating behind them, left to fade in Maplewood's history. She had conquered the darkness. No curse could bind them now, and just like that, the sweet sound of laughter filled the air, wrapping around them like a warm blanket. They stepped into the bright morning, free at last, forging ahead together, and if you're still watching, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button, it really helps out the channel. Let us fill the comments section with your reactions and theories about what just happened, and don't wait even one more second to share this video with 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling conclusion. Your support means the world, and only true fans understand the importance of these actions.